Hi everyone, good evening. In this session, I'm going to talk about interview preparation, session 5, day 2 operations, troubleshooting with systematic approach. And here is the agenda. And I will quickly recap our previous session first, and which includes day 0, day 1, day 2, and day end task. Quick overview, and then we'll start with our troubleshooting process standard methodology. This standard methodology in general with a 3-step process. So definition of system problem. Under the system problem, we have to understand identifying symptoms, symptom versus problem, and gathering information about the problem. And the second step is identifying possible causes, and within the possible causes we have to determine the root cause and resolving the problem, identifying possible solutions. Within the possible solution we need to finalize implementing the best solution. So with these 3 steps I will cover the troubleshooting process standard methodology, and finally we'll talk about how to prevent the problem from happening again, and troubleshooting process with example. Whatever the steps we discussed, the 3 steps, with these 3 steps we can apply on one real world example. And finally we can also verify VMware online references. In order to do the troubleshooting, there will be a plenty of scenarios. For all the scenarios I will show you the VMware online reference articles. Okay, so let's start with the quick recap for now. And before recap, as per our previous session, now we have an idea. Day 0 means design, planning, and architectural designs and all covered in a day 0 for any of the IT infrastructure projects. And day 1 is nothing but a deploy. That means any IT infrastructure project will start initiating the installation, configuration, and all. And the day 2 is nothing but a operations. So whatever we implement in day 1, that implementation, after the implementation, all the day-to-day operations is performed in a day 2. So that is the operations part. And after day 2, whatever you are doing, we are doing the any additional task like updates and upgrades, and working on the any of the additional customer request projects and all, it's covered in the day end life cycle management. And along with that, always we also focus on the service improvement plans and SIP in every level. Even day 0 level, after 1 year you may find some changes in your day 0 design, we can do the service implement plan. Same way we can do for day 1 some configuration changes, and day 2 also we can enhance our operations. It's a completely a cyclic process in the day end. Okay, so now, what are the day 0 design and day 1 deploy task? So suppose if you are interested to learn how we can do the day 0 design, architectural diagrams, and also the day 1, how we can start deploying the each and every step of a deployment process and all. As we aware, if you are already existing subscriber, I already covered in our previous videos, which are all if you log into the YouTube and Grand Cloud Garage channel. From the channel, if you go to the playlist, you can see the VMware vSphere and vSphere Plus 43 videos. It covers all the vSphere install, configure, and management concepts, and it have all the deployment procedures and also the architectural design options. And also I have a separate home lab quick bytes, also I have 7 videos and totally 50 videos available specifically for the vSphere concepts. And if you are interested to learn about the VMware Tanzu and NSXT and any of the modern data production solutions, and also the VRA, vRealize Automation 8.x, also if you're interested, I prepared previously a few videos. If you're interested, you can go through this one. Here also I talk about some architectural design and deployment task. And today's topic is covered under the interview preparation session. So here I will explain you the day 2 operations specifically to the troubleshooting topic now. So what are the day 2 operations? This one also previously we talked about the day 2 operations. There are 5 key topics that we look at when we consider day 2 operations, that are the process to streamline operations. So this streamline operations divided into 5 key topics best practices. Best practices is mainly for a prevention purpose. And the a second key topic is baselining. That means we should maintain a always standard benchmarks in our infrastructure architectural design. Once even the design also maintain standard benchmark, it's applicable for the day to operations as well. And even in the operational perspective, we should maintain a standard benchmarks. And recovery with the least effect, how soon we can recover our infrastructural components. And this topic also I covered previous videos with protection at every layer. We talk about how we can recover at the hardware components level, and how to recover in a within ESXi host level, and how we can recover within a cluster level, how we can configure HCI, DRS, and also the DPM features. And if you considering a data store perspective, we talk about some backup solutions. And if you want to provide a recovery for entire your data center site, I talk about the site recovery manager concept as well. Okay. And so that's the reason I'm not going to cover now 1 2 3 concepts, and also including the fourth concept, monitoring. I covered previously for vCenter alarms. That is also one of the monitoring default monitoring tool from the VMware. Using vCenter alarms, it will help us to do problem detection. Whenever we received any vCenter alarm, we should aware how to resolve the vCenter alarms. And within the monitoring, in our upcoming sessions, I will cover for vRealize Operations Manager. That is also one of the popular VMware monitoring tool, and it will helpful not only for monitoring, it will also helpful for the dashboard reporting and also capacity management. So that I will cover separately in the later session. But today's session, we are mainly focusing on troubleshooting, problem solving. Okay. So first we can try to understand the what is problem and how we are going to solve or resolve. So focusing the troubleshooting methodology now. So troubleshooting importance. So let's understand what is the importance of troubleshooting. Having a troubleshooting methodology help us to resolve issues in a consistent and repeatable manner. And repeatable manner means, suppose if you have a ESXi host power down issue, or virtual machine unexpectedly power down, if you once you resolve that virtual machine issue or ESXi issue, if you prepare a document, internal document with your troubleshooting steps, even in future, if the ESXi host is down or virtual machine down, we already have a existing troubleshooting steps. Using that existing troubleshooting document, we can also utilize for a upcoming future issues. So that is a point we mentioned here. Always resolving issues in a consistent and repeatable manner. And recommended to use a systematic or structured approach to the troubleshooting. So this is the recommended. And as we know, one famous proverb is, every locked door has a key and every problem has a solution. So when we are performing a troubleshooting in our IT infrastructure, definitely always there will be a solution. So we no need to worry. Even interviewer given you any troubleshooting scenario, just understand the scenario what the interviewer is giving for us. Based on the scenario, you can just find the clue and understand the logic what the interviewer trying to narrate. Based on the error message or based on the given clues, we can identify the solution. Okay. But that approach in a systematic way we'll discuss now. See, troubleshooting process standard methodology. So troubleshooting involves the systematic approach to identify the problem. Identifying the problem is nothing but a root cause where the actual cause exists, and from the reported symptom. So it's divided into the standard methodology divided into three steps. The first step is defining problem, and second step identify the cause, and finally we can solving the problem, or we can say resolve the problem, or another terminology we can use, fix the problem. Okay, any terminology we can use. So whatever the scenario in interview they ask the troubleshooting, you can try to explain in this three manner. Whenever the customer is given any of the problem statement, from that problem statement we have to aware that start identifying the symptoms. What is the symptoms in that problem, and gather the information. Gather the information is nothing but whether the user or customer or client, we are using a multiple words, like sometime they may say client, sometime they may say end user, they may say customer or stakeholder, whatever the terminology they are using. Or even the nowadays in the cloud terminology we are using tenants also. Even tenant also has highlighted any problem also, from that tenant or respective personnel, we need to gather the respective information, what problem they're actually facing, and with the timestamps itself, we need to collect all the details. So this will help us to find the identifying the cause where the problem is resides. And finally, we can choose some possible solutions, and eventually we can apply only the best solution. That is the main concept of troubleshooting standard methodology. As part of second step, identifying a cause, again there will be two subcategories. One is identifying possible causes and determining the root cause. That means within your, suppose I find out here three possible causes. Within the three possible causes, definite actual cause will be only one. That one cause only we need to identify. And solving the problem also, definitely there will be a multiple solutions, but always we should choose the best solution. For example, one of the virtual machine is down, and when the user complain that virtual machine is unable to access, when the user say virtual machine is unable to access, first we need to understand that whether this virtual machine, when it was down, is it not accessing, or whether it is not able to ping. So identify the symptoms and also gather the information from the user, when this virtual machine was down. Is it down for today or some time ago, or it's down from since yesterday? When it was actually down, the timestamp is important. Based on the timestamp only, we can log into the vCenter and validate at that same time, are there any running snapshots, or are there any antivirus scanning, or any relevant scheduled jobs are running during that time. Accordingly, we can start investigating. During the investigation, you may find some identifying possible causes. It may due to the ESXi host resource crunch, or it may due to the snapshots are running, or it may due to the antivirus scanning also running during the time. That is a three or four possible causes we may identify. But in that identification also, before giving a conclusion, what is actual accurate root cause for that problem, we need to narrow down, and we can find out the clues from the vCenter server, or we can find the clues from the necessary logs. And once you identify the root cause, then only you can choose the solution. This solution will be like a, in general, most of the virtual machine errors, as we know, one common solution will be restart. When we reboot a ESX or vCenter or virtual machine or any of the application, most of the troubleshooting issues will be resolved by the restart. But in the real world scenario, you should not able to we should not recommend every issue with a restart, because customer may not agree for a restart every time. So that we have to identify some possible solutions. Suppose this scenario, virtual machine is unable to access or unable to ping. This is the symptoms given, and we identified from the issue. But during that scenario, we need to validate first why the virtual machine is currently hang, and is it really required a restart. Suppose sometime virtual machine CPU is reach 80 to 90%, and at certain time 90 also reach 100%. If the virtual machine CPU is consuming 800%, that is called as high CPU usage. During that scenario, the virtual machine may become hang, but customer is not interested to provide a restart approval. But as a technical consultant, what we can do is we can also get a one immediate urgent approval due to this incident, because it is a production application VM. So we can contact the respective application owner or our internal management team and explain this issue. This is the issue we are facing, but it may back to normal once we restart, but customer is not agreeing for restart. The only recommendation as a technical consultant, what we can recommend is, the problem statement is high CPU usage. So we can recommend that. Suppose the virtual machine is running with a 6 CPUs, we can recommend the customer, at least we can try to increase additional 2 CPUs. You can, when you start increasing 6 CPUs to 8 CPU, again it will, the resource utilization may start back to normal 100 to 90%. If you wait for some time, it may back to 80 or below 80% usage. So after that, when you try to access the virtual machine, the hang status may back to normal. Some scenarios, but some scenario, if it is not able to back to online also, we no need to worry. Always explain the current situation to the customer and also your internal management team. But the best approach will be like, first to discuss with your internal team and do some brainstorming session, and you can explain as this is a production server. So what are all the changes we did until now? Like we got the approval from management team and we increased the CPU. This information first explain to your internal management team. If the team is satisfied, and then we can update the same status to the customer. So customer also understand we are trying our level best to resolve this issue, but at certain time customer also need to provide a reboot approval because we tried all the possibilities. But this is applicable for only some scenarios. It's not applicable for every scenario, because some scenario after we increase the additional CPU, virtual machine status may back to normal. But some cases, if it is not back to online, we need to find out what are all the findings we did until now, all the findings and information, and whatever the troubleshooting steps we applied until now, all the steps we need to present under the customers table, and the customer will review and analyze. And even customer also, he also need some their internal approvals. So once the customer given a green signal, then only we can start rebooting the virtual machine. So how I explain this process, even in the interview also, you can start explaining to the interview in a systematic way, so that they can understand, okay, this guy have a troubleshooting skill, and even if we assign one project to this person, he can able to handle it single and confidently. If you provide that confidence level in the interview perspective, definitely you will get through that interview. Okay, so that's where this process will be useful for us. And let's start explaining these 3 points one by one. I will trying to explain you in detail. Within our defining problem, I will cover the identifying symptoms. I will take with one example how we can identify the symptom and how to gather the information. Once we cover the first point, and I will explain you the second, and finally I will cover the third one, solving the problem. And at the end of the session, I will also give you one example to match with this three-step process. See, the first point is defining a system problem. So system problem means a system can be any device. It can be a ESX, it can be a physical server, it can be a virtual machine or network device, storage device, and so on. So defining a problem, the main high level overview for the problem is a system problem is a fault in a system or one of its components that negatively affects the services needed for the normal production. It's negatively affects, that is the keyword here. Negatively affects the services needed for normal production. So in general, problems can arise from numerous sources which include configuration issues. So this is one important point. It may cause due to the configuration issue, resource contention. So resource contention means, let's say for example, I took the example of VMware ESXi host. So if you see in this diagram, we have one server hardware. It can be a HPE, Dell, IBM, or Fujitsu, any other third-party vendor hardware. On top of the hardware, we are installing the VMware ESXi host. On top of VMware ESXi, we have created a multiple virtual machines. And each virtual machine running with the guest operating system. On top of guest operating system, we are installing a applications. So this is how one ESXi host, and same scenario applicable for all the ESXi host. Okay, so configuration issue is nothing but the configuration issue can be ESXi level configuration issue. Even when you log into the ESXi host using vSphere host client, or you can connect to vCenter server, select the ESXi host, go to the configuration tab. Under configuration tab, whatever the section configuration, if you did some mismatch or if you assign the configuration in a wrongly configured or incorrectly configured, also it causes a configuration issue. That is one example. Even same way, virtual machine tab also, if you select the VM edit settings, any of the configuration parameters, if you modify also, it causes a configuration issues. It not only in a VM level, even in the operating system level also we can find a configuration issues. That is first two scenario. Most of the problems occurred with these reasons. And the second scenario is resource contention. Resource contention is nothing but a suppose our virtual machine required resources are minimally 8 CPUs, but if you assign the CPUs are 6 CPU, definitely there will be a resource crunch. Even same like it's applicable for memory, disk and network card also. If you do not assign a enough CPU, enough memory and all, always there will be a resource contention. Resource means it refers to a CPU, memory, disk and network card. And network attacks nothing but a, it's kind of any vulnerability attacks or virus attacks or spyware, malware, and also the ransomware attacks is considered under the network attacks. And software bugs is nothing but a, suppose user did a some latest application patch. After running the application patch, the application is not functioning properly. Some of the tabs are working, some of the tabs are not working in that specific application, like it's a ServiceNow application, database application, or any of the other third-party applications. Whatever the application it is, after the user did some latest patch, application may not functioning properly. That is nothing but a software bug. Even ESXi host also, suppose recently ransomware is revisited. Some new, if you see the recent VMware articles, ransomware revisited, and VMware also released a latest ESXi host 7.0 patch. So that patch is what is the purpose of that patch is it is addressing the ransomware protection. So that's how. So for ESXi software also we have a bugs. To fix that bugs, they are releasing a latest patch. Okay, and hardware failures. Even hardware failures also common during the system problem. Hardware problem is nothing but either a hardware fan failure, memory performance degraded, or network card fail, or HBA card failed. Even network device also failed. That is nothing but a hardware failures. Okay, so if you understand this concept, wherever the scenario comes in the interview perspective, or even if you are having a customer conversation also, these points are useful. Even if you are handling the day-to operations in your office environment, these points are the very useful points. Okay, so we talk about the definition of a system problem until now. Now let me explain you the identifying the symptom. So within the defining the problem, the another key point is identifying the symptoms. So I'm covering this point now. So troubleshooting process begins when a user report a problem. It's correct. So this statement is absolutely right. Normally, when we start the troubleshooting means we can start only when the user report a problem. Here, user is nothing but a end user, customer, client, stakeholder, tenant, any of the terminology we can use, but don't confuse. Interviewer also use some different terminology. Even you can say one of my application folks, that is also considered as a client or customer, application folks or application owner. These terminologies they may use in the interview, but try to familiarize that word. Whatever it is, whenever they report any problem, that is that's where only our troubleshooting starts. And frequently what a user reports as a problem might not be the problem. It's correct, because customers may not aware the actual problem. Even they may give you some incorrect statements also. So frequently what user reports a problem, reports as a problem might not be a problem. Okay, and a customer might be reporting a symptom of the problem. So that's true. So symptom means prospective effects or what is generally shown and reported, such as whatever the screen, or suppose the user is accessing one virtual machine, he may say my virtual machine is running very slow. Within my virtual machine, I'm unable to access my mouse. Like that they may highlight. But with that statement, we cannot decide this that is a problem or that is a issue. It may be one of the symptom. So that portion I'm explaining now. What is the difference between problem and symptom? And such as usability. Usability means serviceability. That means whatever the customer is raising the service request, this all comes under the usability to perform a certain task. Normally in our IT organization, every organization they are using some ticketing tools like ServiceNow, they are using Remedy, BMC Remedy, or any of the service center support tools. These and all like it will help us to submitting the request like SR, incidents and also the change request. But the customer may say they are also sometimes the some of the customers we have to educate them. They are also not sure in which scenario we need to raise incident, which scenario we need to raise service request, which scenario we need to raise change request. Suppose if they want to create one new virtual machine, that is nothing but a service request. After creating that VM, if the VM is not accessible, that is nothing but a incident. Suppose on that virtual machine, he want to install a latest patch. Latest patch installation also it comes under a change request, because after applying the patch, it require a restart. So whenever we require any restarts and all, it's considered as a maintenance support. So for maintenance support, service request is not recommended. We should go with a change request. So that kind of categorization we can do in our organization. So similarly, in symptoms also we have some categories like usability, accuracy, reliability, and performance. Let's understand importance of usability. Usability for to perform a certain task like service request, and accuracy, system's ability to repeatedly show the same results. Let's say customer is requested for a virtual machine CPU increase or memory increase. We already increased the CPU and memory, but still user complain that performance is still performance is degraded. There is no improvement even after assigning the CPU and memory. That is called accuracy. That means whatever the customer is expecting, our system or device is not reaching the customer expectations. That is nothing but a accuracy. And reliability. Reliability means according to the business service level agreements. Service level agreement means it is an agreement between customer and our organization. That is the agreement. Whenever the customer is assigning the project to our company, they make a one service level agreement. It's like a when we are taking any of the house rental house also, there will be a rental agreement. Similarly, even for the organization, when they are taking handovering the one project, there will be some service level agreement. So according to service level agreements, reliability in the form of availability. Availability means the customer agreement may say all our servers should be available monthly basis 99.99%. That means the minimal downtime only customer accepts. But if the downtime is more than 0.01% means customer won't agree, we have to pay the penalty to the customer. So that is the agreement. Some customers they may give the agreement like 98%, 99%. So depends on the customer's choice, they will sign in based on the SLA agreement. Even if we didn't meet the SLA agreement, that is also considered as a symptom. And performance, resource utilization status as per the SLA service level agreement. Resource utilization means CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, network utilization, or storage latency, network latency. So in the resource utilization perspective, normally organizations they use some standard procedure. If the CPU, memory, disk and all, if it is consuming over 80% usage, they recommend to raise a alert with warning message. If the CPU, memory, disk and all consuming over 90%, we recommend to send the alert with a critical error message. So critical means we need to address that issue immediately. Warning alert means we can there will be a some turn around time. There will be a time within a 1 hour time we can respond to that issue. If the server is a test server, there will be no urgency, we can resolve within 4 hours, or some companies they may give 1 day time. That means minimally within 8 hours we have to resolve that test server issue. If it is a production or critical production server, normally in SLA agreement it says that we have to resolve that issue within a 1 hour. Even in the interview perspective, they will ask you what are the main SLAs your organization is following with respect to the troubleshooting. That time we are ready to explain that point. We can say one common answer for that SLA point is we can say most of the critical servers we are following the SLA need to resolve within 1 hour, and development servers we have to resolve within a 2 hours time, and test servers we can resolve in a 4 hours time. And if it is a staging server or disaster recovery related servers or secondary site servers, we have a tad time turnaround time for until 8 hours. That's how we can explain in the interview. Okay, so this is about the complete information of defining the problem and also how we can identify the symptoms. So for these symptoms, let me show you in the following slide what is difference between problem and symptom. Let's say symptom versus problem. To troubleshoot effectively, that means to troubleshoot successfully, we must be able to differentiate between the symptoms and problem is an important step in the troubleshooting process. So here is the examples. So here are the examples. It covers a few symptoms. What is the difference and problem? Let's try to understand the first point. One or more LUNs, LUN means logical unit numbers, on a storage array are not visible. That's how customer may complain. But LUNs are not visible means it's not the problem, it's a symptom. The LUNs that are not visible are not presented correctly to the ESXi host. That is the actual problem. Okay, that's how we can differentiate symptom problem. And another example, we cannot connect the vCenter server with the vSphere client. That means we are unable to access the vCenter server. And that is a symptom statement. But problem statement is the vCenter server service failed to start. That is actual problem. Why we are unable to connect means the reason is service is not starting. That is the problem. And the powering on virtual machine fails. So user usually say my power on virtual machine failed, but the user thinks that that is a problem, but actually that is not a problem, that is a symptom. But problem is a file that the virtual machine must have been locked on any of the other ESXi host. Let's say VM is running on ESX4, but I am trying to power on that VM using ESX1. Definitely it shows power on failure. So we need to identify that virtual machine VMX file where it is running, where it is logged. If it is a ESX4, you can try to power on using the ESX4. Select the ESX4 and try to power on, and then we can able to power on the virtual machine successfully. That is how we can differentiate symptom and problem. Okay. Now within our defining problem, now we talk about these 2 points. Let me cover the gathering information, how we can gather the information in case of any problem occurs. And these steps are applicable not only for vSphere. Even nowadays most of the organizations, they are in the transformational journey to the cloud experience. Some organizations, they are using a private cloud, some organizations are using hybrid cloud, some organizations are using public, and some of the organization, they are using a multi-cloud also. So whatever the infrastructure they are using, any level troubleshooting, not only vSphere perspective, even in the cloud level, DevOps perspective also, troubleshooting standard structured approaches, these 3 steps only. Okay. So but for our easy understanding, I'm taking the example of VMware vSphere concepts, but these steps are common for all the cloud level troubleshooting also. Okay. After the problem is reported by the user, gather information to help us obtain a clear description of the problem. So gathering information is a key task. Okay, that point only we highlighted. So how we can gather the tasks are, one key point is obtain the steps to reproduce the problem. We can ask the customer, shall we reproduce the problem? Because customer may say, when I restart the virtual machine restart is taking more than 15 minutes time. When the customer say more than 15 minutes time, as a systems engineer or technical consultant, when the customer saying this problem is virtual machine power on is taking more than 15 minutes, it's really challenging as a technical consultant to address that issue. So our first recommendation is we can ask the customer politely, see customer, I understand your problem, shall we produce, we can ask this question, shall we reproduce or shall we recreate the problem? We can ask the customer, can we recreate the virtual machine? Because when we restart virtual machine one more time, sometimes during the restart time, it may show us some unexpected error messages, whether the virtual machine running with the Solaris operating system, Linux operating system, or Windows operating system. During the restart, it may show you some boot failure error or any of the file corruptions or defragmentation is needed. Any information we can find during the boot up time. So those informations are helpful for us to gather the some information. That's the reason we can ask the customer to reproduce. But some scenarios customer may provide the approval to restart, but some scenario they may not provide the approval. So that scenario also we need to dig into the additional information. That points I will cover now. So to the customer, because it provides a repeatable means to recreate the problem and a way to validate. So when you recreate means when you restart that affected VM again, you may find some way to validate that problem was resolved. Some cases it may resolve, it may provide us some clues. Using that clue, we can fix it. Another point for gathering information is identify the scope of the problem. So does the problem affect only one object or multiple objects? Let's say user say most of my after the recent patching, monthly patching, all my virtual machine reboot status is slow. If they say reboot status slow, we need to ask, is it reboot status slow for only one VM or multiple VMs? That's how we can form the question. Let's say some of the users they may complain that my virtual machine snapshot process is taking longer time. Usually virtual machine snapshot creation is very quick process, but the customer say snapshot taking is taking longer time, means we can ask the customer, is it snapshot taking longer time only for one VM or multiple virtual machines? If you say only one VM, we already narrowed down the, we focus the only on the specific VM. If you say some of the multiple VMs, means we can focus on those group of virtual machine, whether their data store have any enough space or not. That is a clue we can identify. Depends on the customer. When they shared some detail, additional information, it will help us to pinpoint out the actual issue. Okay, and determining the scope can give us clues about where the problem might be. Okay, that's the main reason why we are collecting the information. Apart from this information also, timestamps also very important. And gather additional information, like we can ask the customer, was the task working before, or was the symptom you identified earlier anytime? And if so, what are the recent changes in your environment? If they say, yes, it was working before, now only having issue, means we can ask the customer, was what are the recent changes in the environment? Because that is only the main clue. If they did any recent changes, from that clue only we can identify the actual problem, where it is resides. Okay. And also another key point for the gathering information is review the online references on the principal websites, because sometimes they may show some error message screenshots. Customers may give some error message screenshot with that error code number. If any error showing as error code, definitely it will be a some known issue. You can find some product related nodes or product related website bugs or existing known issues we may find. So that point I highlighted here. Review the online references on principal website, consult references and such as product release notes. Suppose if they are talking about any Linux operating system, you can refer the Red Hat website. If they are referring to the any of Windows operating system, refer to the Microsoft website. Are there any latest product release notes, and to determine whether the problem is a known problem. Normally in the real release notes, product release notes, they will highlight the what is the bugs fixed within the latest version, so that it will help us to narrow down the issue. Okay, this is about the first point, defining the problem. Until now we discussed identifying symptoms and gathering information. Now let's talk about the second step, which is the identifying the cause. But within the identifying cause, first there may be a multiple possible causes. Those points we can discuss now. Identifying possible causes. So under the identifying possible causes, I'm taking one example of ESXi architecture. If you want to install ESXi host, we require a one hardware like HP, Dell, IBM, and Fujitsu, HCL, any hardware we can use. On top of the hardware, we can install the ESXi operating system. Once the ESXi host is installed, it will allow us to create a virtual machine. So virtual machine means it consists of virtual CPU, virtual memory, virtual disk, and NIC. And within our virtual machine, we can install the guest operating system and applications. So if any issue occur also, the possible causes will be like a either within a guest operating system or virtual machine layer or ESXi layer, hardware layer. That means we need to start troubleshooting layers on four layers, and the possible causes also within these four layers. Okay, same way it's applicable for network devices, storage devices. I'm taking the example of server virtualization concept. Okay, now the same point highlighted here. A structured approach to troubleshooting enables us to determine the root cause quickly and effectively. Okay, so how quickly we can identify the root cause is, some may go the troubleshooting from top to bottom, and some may go the troubleshooting from bottom to top, some may start from the middle. Okay, because the troubleshooting, while troubleshooting, everyone have their own approach, everyone have their different style of troubleshooting. But whatever the style it is, but the normal troubleshooting recommended approach is based on our infrastructure architecture, we should cover all the layers. That layer should cover hardware, ESXi hypervisor layer, it cover the virtual infrastructure, virtual machine layer, and guest OS. Finally, we should cover application. All layers should cover, but the approach, what the recommendation is, you can start from top to bottom, bottom to top, or you can start in the middle. Middle, you can start from VM also. Okay, but the recommendation here is we should cover all the layers. Sometimes we may not find the clues on a guest OS, we may find the clues on a other layers. That is the key point here. Okay, let me talk about other point. Based on the problem statement, take one of the following troubleshooting approaches. So you see the one approach is investigate the cause top down. So top down means, as I mentioned, we can start troubleshooting from top to until the down. That is one approach. And another approach, investigate the cause bottom to up. So you can start from bottom to up, layer by one you can verify. Definitely we may find the clue in any one layer. Okay, and the third approach caused by halves. That means we can start approaching from the medium level also. From the medium also you can start testing either top, either below, but at the end we should cover all the layers. Okay, but even in the interior also, if the interior ask any question like ESXi host hung issue, ESXi host power down, or virtual machine hung, virtual machine power down, virtual machine resource issue, the troubleshooting approach is like this. And remember, you can start explaining from any scenario based on your comfortable. Some may comfortable to start from top to down, some may comfortable to start from bottom to top. Whatever the troubleshooting approach is convenient for you, you can choose any one approach. Okay, so anything is helpful for us to find the actual clues and actual root cause. That is the importance of identifying possible causes. So this point is covered. Now I'm going to talk about determining the actual root cause. See, we find here there are four layers. That is the possibility. Four layers are the possibility. Within the four layer, sometimes there is a chances of issue also. In my past experience, within my one of my remote data center means normally we do not have a more racks. We have only four racks in the remote data center. In that remote data center, what we faced is all of the sudden the power equipment was having some issue. Power equipment issue means it causes that AC cooling also become a AC cooling. Normally the cooling in our data centers are like a very chilled cooling only, but due to some power fluctuation issue, all the AC cooling was not working properly. So all the entire night it was working with the heat only within the data center. Almost early morning around 3 a.m. we received the continuous calls from my tech support team. They keep saying that most of the servers are down and we are receiving a multiple alerts from our monitoring team. So immediately we have a internal bridge call, and finally we, even during that bridge call also, we engage all our teams. We engage the network team, we engage the storage team, server team, and also the data center operations team. Within all the teams, we collaboratively we are working together with the teams. We started initiating, as a technical lead, I have to instruct the teams all start to work verifying from one by one. So when we start verifying from one by one team started working on hardware layer, one team started working on hypervisor, one team working on virtual machine, and one team specifically for network layer, one team is specifically on storage layer. And finally they haven't find any major clues on a specific infrastructure layer errors and all. And then finally we also verifying all the checklist whether which layer is having issue and all. And finally we asked one of our data center operation engineer. So DC ops team, what they are saying is data center having some power fluctuation issue, and the ACs are not working properly, and the entire data center room become heat, and it causes the servers become hang. So that's how we found the solution. That is all possible causes. But the initial possible causes, we verified 5 layers. We verified hardware layer, we verified virtualization layer, we verified the virtual machine OS application layer, network layer, storage layer. And the fifth layer we verified on a physical data center ops layer. And finally, we concluded that issue as an environmental issue. So that is how identifying possible causes means there may be a multiple possibilities, but finally we have to choose determining the actual root cause. That is important in the second point. Okay, so let's talk about the determining the root cause. To determining the root cause, test our environment. See, test our environment means we need to validate for all the layers and eliminate possible causes. Eliminate possible causes means every one time you suppose you verified hardware layer, there is no issue. Just eliminate that one and go with the hypervisor. If you find issue, just point out that that is a problem. If the ESX hypervisor layer no issue, just eliminate that cause and go with the next layer. Like that we can do, but this approach can be based on your comfort. You can try to do from top to bottom, bottom to top, or you can start from middle. But in the interview, whatever the scenario interviewer is given, you can start explaining this approach. That is my best recommendation. And example, the problem is that virtual machine has stopped responding. This is a one example. So how we can find is normally, let's say taking the example of top to down, because they're saying about virtual machine stopped responding means we can start from your OS layer, OS and application. So problem is triggered by an operation, either a snapshot or vMotion operation performed on a VM. That is one expected possible cause. And another possible cause is virtual machine limit and share values are misconfigured on the virtual machine. Suppose virtual machine is configured with a specific limit, CPU limit, memory limit, and CPU share and memory share. That configuration they configured a some misconfiguration. That is also one possible cause. And another possible cause, not enough host CPU host resources. That means in our physical ESXi host resources are completely highly utilized. Even when the ESXi host is fully utilized also, it may causes the virtual machine hang or not responding. Okay, these are the three possible causes for this example. But our end thing is we need to identify actual problem in the within that issue. Okay, so but it is also sometimes we may find in the first scenario, sometimes we may find in the second possible cause, sometimes we may find the third scenario. Okay, but identifying the actual root cause is our main key task. Okay, so now let's talk about a troubleshooting standard methodology. Now I'm going to talk about the third step. So until now we covered step 1 and step 2. Now I'm going to talk about step 3, solving the problem. Here solving, we can use another terminology: resolve, resolution, fix, remediate, mitigate. Multiple words we can use. Why I'm explaining these all the words is interviewer also may use some different words, but don't confuse. Always the concept is same: solving the problem or resolving, fixing the problem. So even for fixing the problem also, definitely same like a possible causes, there will be a multiple solution, but at the end of the solution we need to choose best solution only. That same point mentioned here, troubleshooting involves a systematic approach to identifying the problem root cause from reported symptom. Okay, so now let's talk about the resolving the problem. So within the resolving the problem, after identifying the root cause, resolving the problem, but within a resolving, to resolve the problem, we identify possible solutions. How many possible solutions we have to this problem, and then implement a best solution. Okay, let me elaborate this point below. How we can elaborate is, in determining the best solution, assess means we have to do some assessment or evaluate the impact of the problem on operations. There will be a three types of impact: high impact, medium impact, low impact. In general, if the server is a critical server means high impact. If the server is a production server means medium impact. If the server is a test and development, it will be a low impact. Okay, so that's how the customers are divided. High impact, let's say you received a three alerts. One is a critical alert, one is a medium alert, a critical, one is a warning alert, or another one also warning alert. When you receive this three alert, we have to choose which is the first priority. The first priority definitely will be a critical alert, and then only we can go for a normal warnings. Same way, in our issue problem also, there will be a some impacts. We need to identify, analyze the impact, which is high impact. That high impact one we have to resolve immediately, and medium impact resolve when possible, and low impact we can also wait for longer time, resolve that during the next maintenance window. One example for resolve immediately is, let's say production vCenter server is down. but vCenter server is accessed by all our application users. If the vCenter server is down, it's not recommended. We have to fix it immediately, because even in the everyday night time, there will be some backups are running. All the backups also, it will connect through vCenter. From our vCenter only, it able to access our ESXi host and virtual machine to collect the backup. Suppose if the vCenter is down at the 6 p.m., our backup schedule will be evening after 6 p.m. Normally, backup schedules and antivirus scannings recommend to do it only the non-business hours or after office hours. If the around evening hours, if the vCenter is down, we have to understand that there will be a high impact, because all the backup jobs may stop. Backup jobs may stop, or backup jobs are failed. That's how we can identify. Even same way, let's say our one of the virtual machine migration is having issue. You immediately we need to identify, is this migration issue only for one virtual machine, or this virtual machine migration issue on specific ESXi host. If you identify that problem, if it is only for one VM, it will become like a low impact. If they identify the issue with a ESXi host, whatever the VM I am trying to migrate it to the ESXi host, that ESX migration is failing, it become a high impact. Okay. And medium impact, medium impacts means, let's say one of the production server is down, it will be a medium impact, only one VM down, it's not all VMs down. And low impact, low impact means, let's say one of our ESXi host data store is full and it's consuming 80%. 80% means, okay, it's within our control. Either within a 1 week or within 2 weeks time, we can able to resolve the data store cleanup, because it's a slow process. We have to clean up the old snapshot, remove the unnecessary virtual machines, and we need to coordinate with our internal teams. It may take some time. We can consider that, okay, this issue is a low impact. Okay. But when you are working on low impact issue, if you receive a critical alert, what is your immediate priority? This question also interviewer may ask. Immediately you can understand which is having a high impact. You can say, I mainly focus on the high impacted issue, I will resolve it immediately. If it is a medium impact, resolve when possible, and low impact, resolving during the next maintenance window. Okay. That's how we can address the issues. And another scenario for resolving the problem, identify possible solutions to resolve the problem. Even possible solutions are like this: short term solution, long term solution. Short term solutions means workaround, long term solution means reconfiguration. For example, as I mentioned, the same scenario, let's take the same scenario. One of the data store is full. If the data store is full means, if it is 80%, we can try to clean up the, remove the snapshot, remove the old virtual machine and all. Even though when you remove all the snapshots and virtual machine data, when you configure the ESXi host data store with the thin provisioning, that means there may be a chances of over provisioning. When the data store is running with over provisioning, even though if you clean up the some of the snapshot and old virtual machine, old ISO files also, still it requires some more space. So for cleaning up sometime, it's like a only short-term solution only. It's not a permanent solution. Even after some days or after few days or after few weeks or months, again data store will become a full. So what is the long-term solution for this data store full issue is, only recommendation is we have to increase the data store space. That is one method. And another method, migrate few virtual machines from the data store to another data store using storage vMotion technique. This is the two solutions we can recommend to the customer as a long-term solution. If the customer convinced and given approval for any one solution, we can apply that solution. But as a technical consultant and systems engineer, we should have an idea what is the available solution, and we can present all the solutions to the customer. And finally the decision maker will be our management team and customer. But as a technical consultant, we should do some risk assessment. We have to provide all the details clearly to the customer and also our management. Some organization they may stick to the management approval, some organization they may require a multiple approval. That means one approval from internal management and another approval from customer. So depends on your organization structure, you can explain in the interview. Okay. So because every organization have a different set of process and procedures, so no need to worry. If you interviewer ask the question how you can resolve the issue so and so problem means, you can explain clearly. Sometimes I identify the which is high impact. If it is high impact, without change request, without incident ticket also, on call we can get immediate approval, we can resolve issue first, and then we can submit a follow-up request with the for tracking purposes. That is also possible some organizations. But interview perspective depends on your organization's procedure, you can explain. Okay. And excuse me, now the another point is a long-term solution is like a reconfigure, like disk increase or do the SV motion from one data store to another. That example we discussed. And the third point is impact analysis. That means assess the impact of solution on operations. Even when you want to perform a storage vmotion, let's say long-term solution I given as one method is migrate virtual machine from one data store to another data store to get the data store space back to normal. But this scenario, customer may ask, what is the impact? If I do the SV motion during the business hours, there will be any performance issue. Definitely, when you're doing the SV motion during the office hours, there will be some performance. There will be some storage bottleneck and network bottlenecks. So what we can recommend is we can provide the impact analysis like this solution when we do it now, like short-term solution cleanup, no issues to do it on office hours. And long-term solution, I'm planning to do SV motion of few VMs from one data store to another data store. We have to provide the impact is like it's recommended to do this task only after office hours. That recommendation we can provide. Suppose the customer interested to increase the data store space, even increasing the data store space shall be okay to do it during office hours, but usually that's okay to do it office hours also. But some customer, even though if we given the recommendation to do it during office hours, but most of the customers have their own standard policies. Based on their standard policy, they will give green signal only after 6 p.m. like a non-business hours. So whatever the process you are following, that process only you can explain in the interview. And interview may come up with the different scenarios, but any scenario, this approach is common. Okay. Now, finally, implement the best solution. See, we provided here two solutions, short-term solution, long-term solution. We given the impact also. If the customer agreed to do temporary cleanup, we'll go with short-term. If the customer agreed to do or management team agreed to do increase the disk space, we'll go with a, increasing the data store space. That is the best solution for us. Okay, so now we covered the solving the problem and identifying the possible solutions and implementing the best solution. So this is how we can cover the troubleshooting approach in a strategic manner. And let's say we resolve the issue successfully, but sometimes customer may ask the question how to prevent the problem from happening again. Somehow we have a issue data store full, but how we can prevent problem happening again in future. So that scenario, troubleshooting process, instead of standard methodology, there is a advanced methodology. There will be some two additional steps. So that two additional steps we can discuss now. Following the standardized approach, troubleshooting can help in identifying the problem. So first thing is identifying problem, verify that problem is exist. Sometime why we are verifying problem exists means there may be some false alerts also. If it is a false alerts in the beginning itself, you can just reply to the test support team or security operations center team or network operations center team, inform that your current problem, whatever the problem is raised, that is seems to be a false alert. Once you verify that problem, there is a chances of false alerts also. If it is a true alert, we have to start work on that problem. And the second stage, we have to verify, isolate the cause of the problem. Isolate means start validating all the symptoms, whether it is related to hardware or just isolate. Isolate means separate the cause of the problem. And the third step is correct the cause of the problem. What is actual fix for that problem? That means resolution only we have to do in the third stage. And the fourth stage, verify that the problem has been corrected permanently or not. We need to validate with our application owner and we need to validate with our principal vendor. Let's say data store space issue. Let's take the same issue, data store full issue. When we contact the data center issue, when we approach the VMware team, because the data store is a ESX level data store. When we contact the VMware team also provides some recommendations. They may provide recommendation to keep your data store instead of 80% usage warning. Why don't you make a alert to the 75%? That means within 5% within our control, we have some breathing space to resolve the issue. Like that, they may give recommendation. That is one method. Sometimes they may give the other recommendation is, why don't you start implementing the vRealize Operations Manager tool. Instead of using vCenter alarms, you may start using the vRealize Operations Manager tool. The reason is vRealize Operations Manager is providing a proactive alerting. Without generating the actual real alert, there will be an automatic mechanism for proactive alerting mechanism. If you explain this scenario to the customer, sometimes customers may agree to install a vRealize Operations Manager in our virtual environment. That is the fourth scenario. I give an example of VROps. It applicable for virtual alerts. Suppose if you take the other example, we may provide a other verification and providing a some justifications for that scenario. And finally, we need to follow up with a prevent future problems. But this data store issue, what is prevention is, if you set up a proactive alerting mechanism, definitely it will prevent from a future alerts. That is the one example. Let me take another example. Let's say one of my virtual machine is down. That virtual machine down, immediately first verify whether the virtual machine ping status is able to ping or not. If it is not pinging, definitely VM is down. Log into the vCenter, verify the virtual machine VM console status, whether the VM is having a blue screen of death, or is there any desktop screen it is showing any unexpected error message, or virtual machine is hang. There may be a multiple symptoms. So first identify the symptom and what could be the possible cause. The possible cause may be due to either ESXi host high usage, or virtual machine application is hung, or application is consuming over 80% or over 95% usage. These are all the possibility causes. So narrow down to the actual cause, and if you identify this is a blue screen of death, just get the necessary approval, reboot the virtual machine. Once you reboot, virtual machine may back to normal. But your customer question, how we can prevent these issues in the future. When you identify the blue screen of death, it may allow us to create a memory dump. Normally for a blue screen of death scenario, it will provide a memory dump. This memory dump will store on a C drive Windows directory. So collect that memory dump file and start analyzing with a WinDBG tool, Windows Debugger tool, or Blue Screen Viewer tool. When you analyze that blue dump, it may provide you some information. There may be some drivers issue or some other drivers issue. Generally, virtual machine level, if you're having any issues with the driver, most of the time when we approach the principal vendor VMware recommend to update our VMware tools to the latest version. So you already found the solution from the principal vendor with the fourth step. When you find the solution to do the VMware tools on specific VM, we did it. But what our follow up for a prevent future problems is, we can recommend to the customers this latest VMware tools we have to update in all our virtual infrastructure, virtual machine. That is a preventive, so that in future any other Windows VMs, when your VMware tools are running with the latest version, there will be no virtual machine blue screen of death issues. This is another example. Like this also a advanced methodology for troubleshooting. Apart from our three steps, only thing is troubleshooting steps, and preventive measures is the additional steps. Okay. Hope you understand the troubleshooting process and advanced methodology, and the additional troubleshooting steps and detailed concepts and notes I will cover in the later sessions. But this session is mainly focusing on the how we can approach the troubleshooting process. Either you can approach from top to bottom, or bottom to top, or middle level you can start the troubleshooting. The approach is the key points in our today's session. Okay. And now let me give you one example. Let's say defining the problem. This is our first step. Within the defining a problem, I am taking one example of VMware vSphere vMotion migration fails with an error message. So vMotion migration is failed. That is a problem statement. And scenario, we attempt to migrate a VM named VM01. The virtual machine name is VM01. It's migrating from ESXi01 to ESXi02. After waiting a couple of minutes, the virtual machine migration fails with an error message. That is the scenario. So in this scenario, is this vSphere? We need to ask some gathering information questions. So what is our gathering information questions are? Is this is a vSphere vMotion problem or symptom of an underlying problem? The error message might reveal some clues. We need to, when the customer complain about migration error, immediately first we can ask what is the exact error message. If they explain about error message, it will give you some clue. Okay, to pinpoint the problem area, gather information about the problem, starting with any diagnostic messages displayed in the vSphere client. Suppose in the vSphere client screen also, when we accessing vCenter using vSphere client, there may be some error message screens. We need to collect that information. Okay, that is the first step, defining the problem. And second step, what is our option? Identifying the possible causes. So possible causes, how we can identify. VM migration means it may be related to ESXi layer, or it may be related to hardware network layer issue. So based on the error message, the vSphere vMotion migration failed, ESXi01 and ESXi02 failed to connect over the vMotion network. So based on the error message, it clearly says that some network related issue, vMotion network related issue. So the error pointers to a possible misconfiguration on the ESXi host. So it's all definitely misconfiguration on ESXi level. vMotion network means every vMotion network have a separate VM kernel port group. That VM kernel port group may issue. So possible causes. There are three possibles. vMotion is misconfigured and network connectivity is down on one of the ESXi host, and vMotion VM kernel interface connectivity is down on one of the ESXi host. So within these possible causes, definitely there will be a one is the actual defined desired root cause, defined root cause. So that is how we can determining the root cause, test the each possible cause. We can test each possible cause first and eliminate the possible causes. That means suppose if you didn't find any clues on vMotion configuration, just ignore this point, eliminate, and then go with the second possible cause, and finally go with the third possible cause. Sometimes we may find the solution within the first possible cause option, like a top to down approach or bottom to top, any approach you can go. And in order to determine the root cause, our main end goal is finding the root cause. And the first, test the network connectivity between the host by using ping command. We can just vMotion network IP, we can just ping. If the ping command fails, then check the, make sure that the VM kernel interface is configured correctly. If it is configured correctly, our next step will be, when the ping command is successful, test the vMotion migration. If the vMotion migration is successful, finally we have identified the root cause of the problem. Okay, this is how we can determining the root cause. But we already determined the root cause, but we need to resolve, fix the problem. So how we can fix is example 3, third step, resolving the problem. So in this example, suppose that the root cause was an incorrect IP address of vSphere vMotion VM kernel interface. There is some incorrect IP address. So solution is assess the impact of a problem. We have to do some assessment, impact of the problem on operations, probably high impact, because it's a high impact. Reason, vMotion port group is incorrect. That means the problem affects any VM that is migrated to ESXi02. Correct. And the problem is also affect the proper operation of VMware vSphere DRS. Absolutely. And identify the possible solutions to resolve the problem. So one is the short-term solution, another is the long-term solution. So short-term solution is do not migrate VMs to ESXi02. That is only short-term solution, that means temporary only, or we call it as a workaround. Long-term solution means it's a permanent fix. So permanent fix is fix the IP address of ESXi02 vMotion VM kernel interface. Once you modify the incorrect IP address to correct IP address, that will become as a permanent solution, or we call it as long-term solution. So finally, implement the long-term solution should not require downtime. Correct. It's not require any of the downtime. And remember that in our real-time scenario, whatever troubleshooting steps you perform, you remember to document all the changes that we made to the system since the time the problem occurred. Also backup our log files from the time the problem occurred. These all helpful for our future recurring issues. And also when you do a documentation, let's say normally based on my past experience, if I assign for a new project also, what I can do is I will prepare a daily checklist for our entire project based infrastructure, whether it is virtual infrastructure or physical infrastructure or cloud environment. Once you have a standard daily checklist, validate all the infrastructure is stable or not. Normally if you find some known issues, known problems and all, prepare some documents. If you start streamlining from first month, maybe the same issue may repeat on second month and third month. Max, based on my experience, within 3 months, if you address all your infrastructure problems, after the fourth month onwards, you may see your infrastructure is stable. We may not receive multiple alerts same like initial days, and most of the infrastructure becomes stable. But how you want to become stable is one of the key is all your troubleshooting steps always maintain your documents. That is also call it as SOP, standard operating procedure. When the ESXi down, how we can resolve. When the virtual machine down, how to resolve. When the physical server down, how to resolve. When there is any performance issue for CPU, virtual machine CPU, when there is any ESXi host memory issue, ESXi data store full, what is the resolution? If you have some standard documentation based on your organization, because every organization may have their different type of infrastructure architectural design. Some are using FCSAN, some are using a ISCSI, some are using vSAN. And networking perspective also, some are using only the vSwitch standard. vSwitch only they are using because of they do not have a DV-switch license. Some organization they are using DV-switch, and some organization they are using a private cloud infrastructure they configured with NSX. So that is the reason it may the some scenarios troubleshooting approach may vary from organization to organization. So during that scenario, what we have to do is whatever the problems are reoccurring in your project, and start maintaining a some standard operating procedure SOP document. It will be helpful for us whenever the issue is reoccur or repeated. Immediately we can fix it. We no need to start reinventing the wheel again. We can immediately prepare the solution, because I always recommend to my team also, whenever they find a new issue, I recommend to go with a new documentation when it is resolved. Suppose if there is any known issue, I will immediately told to them to refer this document. It will help us to fix the issue. Like that we can quickly resolve the all the troubleshooting scenarios. Okay. And next point is VMware online references. To improve troubleshooting and refer to the following articles. Even most of the troubleshooting articles you can find from a VMware knowledge base. There are thousands of troubleshooting articles. So with interest of our time, I'm not covering all the troubleshooting scenario, but in the later session, I will give you some tips and tricks for your troubleshooting steps. Same like today, we talk about the standard approach. This approach is common for all troubleshooting scenarios. Same way, I will show you some of the troubleshooting tools. Like some scenario, we can provide a troubleshooting on vCenter level graphical mode, and some scenario, few issues we are unable to resolve in a graphical mode. We have to resolve with a command line interface. Like we can use ESXi shell prompt, or we can use ESXi using SSH session PuTTY, or we can use some cases we can use vCenter. We can connect to the vCenter using PowerCLI and perform a troubleshooting. So those troubleshooting tools and some common troubleshooting scenarios I will explain in the later sessions. Okay, but most if you are interested to learn in detail of all troubleshooting issues, you can find all troubleshootings in a VMware knowledge base article. Even VMware documentation means this they are maintaining a one website, but in our organization we are maintaining a some SOP documents. So KB means knowledge base .vmware.com, and vSphere release notes. Release notes articles also important. Whenever any new product release, always go through the release notes, and especially review the release notes, known issues, and what is the fixed bugs, and what is the resolved scenarios and all. You can just refer. It will help us if your environment is also facing the relevant issue. You can also update this release notes to your management and customer, and recommend them to update it to the latest version of vSphere 7. Even recently VMware released a 7.0 latest patch. And what I heard some internal news is even in future VMware started planning to release vSphere 8 also. Maybe the tentative date either this year or next year. So technologies keep moving to the latest versions. So when any of the latest version, update version or upgrade version is released, we should also recommend our customers to update with the latest version, because it will help us to fix all the product bugs. And another article is VMware communities. This will also, some of our VMware folks will help us to resolve, given us some clues. And VMware compatibility guide, there may be some compatibility issues in our organization, and those compatibility scenarios and all you can validate from this website. Even if you type in the Google vSphere release notes, you will get this article directly. Even compatibility guide, if you type in the Google VMware compatibility guide keyword, you will find this link. And vSphere documentation, even all the whatever the concepts we are discussing, all concept documentation you can find from the VMware website. Okay, documentation site. And finally, what is our key takeaways for today's session? Troubleshooting process. Key takeaways were 3 steps. So a structured approach to troubleshooting enables us to resolve problems quickly and effectively. And differentiating between symptoms and the problem is an important step in the troubleshooting process, and prerequisite knowledge of how the VMware virtual infrastructure works as well as our knowledge of our system's configuration are extremely useful in the troubleshooting process, because some organizations may have a hyper converged infrastructures. Some organizations may use only the storage infrastructure. That means they are using only converged infrastructure. Some may are using STDC, some may are using a mixed cloud. Based on your organization infrastructure also, we have to have a full knowledge on how VMware virtual infrastructure works, and also our knowledge of our system, our existing organization system configuration also plays a key role during the troubleshooting process. And the approach will be same approach: define the problem, identify symptom, gathering information, and once you gather the information, start doing a possible causes. What is a possible causes? Within that possible cause, determining the actual root cause, and finally find the possible solutions like a short-term solution, long-term solution. Based on your customer's approval, you can go with a one of the best solution. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Please do view, like, share, and subscribe to my channel, Gnan Cloud Garage. Bye for now.